4 seed. Tractor 6. You do see Turtenwald currently in the 11th place. Star City Games Open Series leaderboard. Shrout sitting in 30th. If you guys do want to find more about that, you can head over to StarCityGames.com. Go over to the leaderboard area on our page. You can find out more about the Players Championship this season. The seasonal rewards, top Open Series season winner is going to qualification to our 16-man Players Championship at the end of the year. Same can be said for all 4 of our invitational champion at the end of the year. We have our last 8 players with the most Open Series points who are unqualified. So every point matters as we make our way through 2014. Turtenwald sitting in 11th right now, but we've got right here on the line 20 points with a win. Can really jump him in the standings.
Yeah, and you never know when those end of the year payouts are going to end of year points rather are going to end up mattering. Either you go on a run, or maybe the top 8 is a little more attainable than it seemed early on in the season. Whatever the case may be, but the winner of this match, it might end up meaning a lot 12 months from now.
Yeah, you look back and it ends up mattering quite a bit. So we'll see what does happen here between Shrout and Turtenwald Green White Aggro versus Mono Black Devotion. Who do you guys got at home? Tweet at us at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINDY for your tweets all day long. As we're making our way through this final round, we'll crown a champion. We'll chat with Wrestler in the sideboard. Then we'll take a break and we'll do our Legacy Open, which looks like we're going to have 9 rounds for during this winter storm deemed Hercules.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen outside for the past couple hours. This morning it was a joke. The roads were clear. So I'm going to be interested to see what things look like when we head outside for breakfast.
Yeah, I just got to check in for my return flight tomorrow morning. No problems there.
Yeah.
Just
ooh, Hercules, yeah.
At dinner yesterday, our waitress made it sound like we might as well just put down a lease on an apartment.
Yeah, that was
we were
ridiculous.
never leaving the city.
Yeah, that was absurd.
Yeah.
You guys, I hate. Yeah, she was very adamant that there was no chance we're leaving tomorrow.
Alex?
Yeah, it was
Alex. If you're listening, you misrepresented how bad the storm was going to be.
Yeah. It's a weak storm. I'm embarrassed by this storm. I'm prepared to be proven wrong, though. I am, because I love a good hotel room, and I'd love to stay in one for an extra day. And plus, we're in downtown Indianapolis. There's plenty of things to do down here. We had dinner at St. Elmo's, where you watched me get kicked in the face by the shrimp cocktail. I almost had to go to the hospital, it felt like. But, I mean, there's Circle Center downtown, so there's a movie theater, there's a mall, there's a million restaurants. So, look, if I get stuck in downtown Indy for the day, I'm perfectly okay with it.
It's not so bad.
Yeah. It is not. There are worse things in life.
And there is something charming about not having to wake up at 5 in the morning to go catch my flight, too. There's something to be said for that.
I suppose that's okay, since you do have to go to work Monday.
No, I'm off Monday.
Oh, okay. You're just taking an early one back?
Yeah.
I would make you work. I'm cruel. Cruel and unusual. I have to work on Monday. Why don't you? That's not fair.
Well, because I negotiated with my employer. Whatever. We'll talk about it off the air. Not a big deal.
Cards being drawn here for these two gentlemen. Again, Turtenwald on your right, he's going to be on the play first. So we'll see if he's happy with his opening ending. You see an Underworld Connections, and there's at least one land over there. The question is, does he have more than one? And it does not look like he does, even though he just have thoughts. So first mulligan of the match belongs to Turtenwald. We'll see if Shrout is happy.
And I bet Andrew Shrout cannot wait for there to be a green-white Skyland.
Yeah.
Because this mana is unpleasant.
Atrocious. It's just ridiculous that two-color decks have bad mana. It just doesn't add in my head that two-color decks have bad mana.
I like, we spent, the last couple of years with mana being a total free roll. I think there is something to be said for, there's an opportunity cost to mana. You see Andrew setting his hand back as well. And if for no other reason than just to have the formats have a different texture themselves. If you can always play 3 and 4 color decks, at a certain point it stops being cool and it just starts being the default.
Yeah,
and so we were at a high watermark for mana for a really long time. Ravnica duels plus M10 duels, and I kind of like the format now being, not every color combination has easy mana, and you can't cast everything that you want in every combination. And if for no other reason than to just have a little break from it being the other way.
Gotta really admire the Chargers' pride here from Shrout.
Yeah, I talked to him about it. Apparently his brother's a fan. He's not from the San Diego area. I asked because that's where I live now, and I thought maybe he grew up there or lived there now or whatever. No, he's from Louisville, Kentucky, and his brother was a fan, and so he picked them up.
How many of those Charger winter hats do you think are out there?
We don't sell very many.
Cold.
We don't sell. We sell a lot more San Diego Charger beach blankets than we do winter caps.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't have winter caps because they are probably East Coast fans. Stephen King.
Right.
big Chargers fan. They'll be playing later today, most likely losing because they are terrible. But I don't think that you see very many of those hats around.
No, not really.
Who do they play?
They're at Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're gonna get crushed. Okay. I can't wait to be. So every time, I want you to know this. Every time that I make a ridiculously bold statement about sports or something like that, I've been wrong every time so far in the air. There was a lot of Colts bashing yesterday. They came back and won, so that was good for the entire city and to make me look like a complete doofus. There was the Cleveland Browns. I was bashing on the Patriots for they were going to lose to the Browns because they were down by 12 with 2 minutes left. But my hometown, there's only one Cleveland Browns. They found a way. When there's a will, there's a way to lose a game in 2 minutes.
See Owen going back to 5 here. And
Shrout's hand doesn't look that good either.
he has a Plains and a Soldier of the Pantheon and then green cards.
Yes. Is he going to risk it to get the biscuit?
I had to imagine that.
The answer is no.
All right, he's sending it back. I had to imagine that the green-white deck just draws up a lot of hands like that.
It definitely happens because the mana is just atrocious. It wouldn't surprise me if that Soldier of the Pantheon was an experiment one and then it's just laugh out loud funny.
Right.
Because the mana is just so bad. We do have our players sitting down for our Legacy Open right now, so don't forget that that's going to be happening after our standard open. We're going to take a break for a round or two, and then we'll start our Legacy coverage for you guys. So if you're looking for brainstorms, you're looking for fetched lands and Emrakul's that are attacking way too early, you've come to the right place. You can tune in for that a little later today. I promise there will not be very many Goblin Lackeys or Price of Progresses on camera.
I don't know if that's true.
I do.
I'm not saying that I think the burn deck's especially good to play, but a couple of people approached me yesterday about wanting to shuffle it up and my thoughts on the deck. So.
I told them to do that to troll you.
Oh.
All right, that's not true, but I should have.
I was going to say that's really petty.
Because when I think of me, the first thing I think of is mature.
That would be really petty if you did that. So, I'm glad that didn't actually turn out to be the case.
I would never. I have too much respect for you to do that.
Now you're trolling.
Yeah. Nope.
See, I can sniff it out.
Oh, you can see right through me?
Right.
5 cards apiece for these two. I wonder who does the mulligan favor either player. I mean, Turtenwald can't just get like a pack rat eye win draw or a Thoughtseize hand to just blow up Shroud's hand, which he does have 2 Thoughteizes. Yeah, so now he's gonna get to blow up his hand here. Fleeceman, yeah, Shroud's hand is good though. He's got Experiment 1, Fleeceman line, Advent of the Worm, and the necessary lands to cast his spells. But this just shows the power of Thoughtseize and blowing up someone that mulligans to 5.
Yeah. No, I mean in general, I think it actually just magnifies what's going on. I think Andrew is generally really fine with both players mulliganing to 5, assuming that there's no pack rat involved. When pack rat's involved, it's much different.
There goes Experiment 1. So Turtenwald's going to be at 18. Take a draw step. Celestia Charm is the draw for Shrout. Play a Forest, pass the turn. Draw for Turtenwald. He draws a Temple. That's actually a fantastic draw for him. Gets to control the top of his deck. Try to find what he's looking for, and he gets to cast another Thoughtseize this turn. So he's off to a very nice mulligan to 5.
He's on basically empty after this. He has a land and a Grey Merchant left over.
So bottoms up goes that card, and fire off another Thoughtseize. The draw for Shrout was Celestia Charm. Policeman Line's going to go bye-bye, but now Turtenwald knows that he's going to be facing some sort of attacker next turn. Shrout will draw a card. It's a Fleecemane line. I think he's going to cast that one. Your turn. Turtenwald draws. It's a mystery card as he scryed to the bottom. There's a Mutavault. He's going to pass the turn back. So Shrout's going to take a draw step. It's a Boon Satyr, I believe. It looks like maybe a voice resurgence. Either way, in comes the Fleecemane, and it is a voice. So Shrout is getting onto the board very, very quickly here. Turtenwald's going to draw a card.
Very poor Devour Flesh.
Yeah.
So now Owen with a land and a Grey Merchant and a removal spell.
All right, I will
There's
now
a swamp.
hand you over to your head judge, level 2 from Muncie, Indiana, Chaz Estelle.
I think he'll be passing the turn back. So this is a difficult situation here for Turtenwald.
Thank you everyone coming out to Snow.
Yeah, he's going to pass the turn back. Take a draw here, will Shrout. He draws a forest, so he's 1 land away from Advent of the Worm. An attack here for 5.
Just trucking on in.
Yeah, there's a force past the turn back representing Selesnya Charm. And Turtenwald knows the two cards in his hand. He knows that it's Advent of the Worm and Selesnya Charm. The question is, can he do anything about it? This is a decent start. The problem here is that Selesnya Charm is just going to allow him to run over this Gray Merchant.
Yep.
So Shrout will take a draw. It's a Selesnya go get, which is honestly, he wants to draw a land in that situation anyway, but it's perfect because his plan this turn, I would assume, is to cast Selesnya Charm to trample over. So that's exactly what he's going to do. And now he's got the 4th land for Advent of the Worm.
Makes me a little surprised that he wasn't willing to send in the Voice of Resurgence.
Yeah,
as well.
me too. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I don't know if there's any benefit to holding back with it because Selesnya Charm is going to allow him to beat those cards in combat. So a little surprised not to see the Elemental get in there.
I know, and now just with this Devour Flesh in hand and a land. Devour Flesh pretty tough to cast here, obviously, because of Voice of Resurgence.
And he has to cast it on his turn if he's going to cast it.
Yep.
So it's not beneficial to do so. Shrout's going to draw a card now, and Shrout is in the enviable position, of a land or a spell is good. The 5th land allows him to, obviously, Monstrosity. Fleecemane Lion, if he draws Boon Satyr, he can bestow that. But if he draws any spells, he can cast them all. His Mutavault's going to get in front of Voice of Resurgence now. So 3 damage is going to come across. Turtle's going to go down to 6. Mutavault and Voice of Resurgence will trade. Elemental Token is going to come into play. Devour Flesh is going to be on the stack before that does resolve. So he's going to try to catch that Fleecemane line before the Elemental Token comes into play. And I do like that play.
Yep. That's a good window to do this.
What a surprise. Owen played something really well.
Yep.
Shockaroo.
Knows all the timing.
Yeah. Yep, there goes Fleecemane. Shrout's going to get a little bit of life. Then he's going to get his Elemental Token from Voice of Resurgence, and he does have just 1 card left in his hand, which, again, Turtenwald does know about. It's Advent of the Worm, as Turtenwald's going to take a draw step. Looks like he drew a spell. It's a Nightveil Spectre, which isn't so bad. Advent of the Worm's going to come into play. Elemental Token's going to be a 2-2 right now, so if Shrout does draw a creature, he's going to want to play it pre-combat, so that Elemental is a 3-3 and it can safely attack. However, that's not the case. So Worm Token's going to come across. It's going to put Shrout. It's going to put Turtenwald down to 1. Shrout's going to play Temple Guard and pass the turn back here. So if Owen's able to draw a removal spell here, this game does turn around a little bit.
He does have a Mutavault to check the take the Elemental Token. So.
Yep. Following players, if you're in the hall, please make your presence known by waving wildly.
Certainly drawing quite live here.
Yeah, there are a couple cards that actually do turn things around here. Pretty nice way. He's going to play Mutavault and pass the turn back.
Lance Barons. Okay. Paul Brooks. Paul Brooks, are you here?
Andrew with a draw. Really needs to ideally find a creature here.
Yeah. If Shrout's able to play a guy pre-combat, everything works out great for him. As it stands, if this is not a land, what I think happens is Shrout attacks maybe with both of his creatures, and what happens there is that Owen has to block. Wow, no attack at all. Wow.
John Look.
I think you have to attack there, right?
Well, I think he trades his Worm for Nightveil Spectre and a Mutavault.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of upside just leaving the creature in play, I believe, because he has the Elemental Token.
Ryan Morrissey.
I don't want to play the game any longer. Like I kind of want to just clear the board off. Maybe that's because his Worm doesn't trade though. That's the thing. Like because Owen's at 1, if Shrout attacks with the 5/5 and the 2/2, 5/5 has to be blocked by Nightveil Spectre and Mutavault.
Right, yeah, you're right. He does have to double block.
And then the Elemental has to be blocked by a Mutavault, so it would actually just be Advent of the Worm versus Packrat right now. I think Shrout may have missed that.
Yeah, no, you are correct.
And now that Packrat might not seem like much, but that in reality is a 3/3 Packrat because of the 2 Mutavaults out there. And obviously with the power level of the draws that Mono Black has, because now every draw that Turtenwald has the Packrat. So no longer does Turtenwald have to actually top deck creatures. It's Shrout that has to top deck creatures, and he missed that attack. And so realistically, Turtenwald should be dying to an attack from an Advent Worm on this turn. And I think right now, as you do see Shrout there, I think you realize that he missed his window.
Yeah, because you know the box. You can't put Nightveil Spectre in front of the Elemental and then 2 Mutavaults in front of the Worm because then it's 1 point of trample damage.
Shrout plays Temple Guard and passes the turn back, and wow, now Turtenwald's draws are insane because every draw that he has is either a Packrat or the card that he's drawn.
Yeah.
There are no dead draws in Turtenwald's deck right now. He has somehow come out of this situation at 1 life, and I believe that he is stabilized here.
Yeah, with 2 Mutavaults in play, I mean, those rats are so big so
They're
fast.
gigantic. Wouldn't be surprised to see Owen confidently be able to start attacking in like 2 turns.
Yep.
And just pass the turn back. So Shrout gonna untap that Temple Guard they just played last turn. He'll draw a card.
I'm not even sure what big draws Andrew has access to.
That's what I was going
Advent.
to say, yeah. What are the best draws that he has here? Sometimes in green-white you see a card like a Johnny Call of the Pride, which would actually be pretty good right now to give his Worm Flying and Double Strike. Something like that, but what is he able to draw to get himself out of the situation? Banisher Priest isn't very good. Obviously the one-drops like Soldier and Experiment one aren't very good. There is Soldier of the Pantheon off the top that comes into play, but that one doesn't play a huge role here. You see Shrout's going to look at the board and see if he can make any positive attacks now that his Elemental token is a 3/3. He's just going to pass the turn back, so Turtenwald immediately going to make a Pack Rat token. Underworld Connection's probably the worst draw in his deck, but
they're all rats now. So.
Yes, there are no bad draws. So Turtenwald draws a card. It's either a Pack Rat or something he does want to cast here. Really going to be interested to see if and when Turtenwald decides that attacking is okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible this turn is where it can start with Nightveil Spectre. He's, of course, playing around the best possible cards that Andrew could have here, even if they're not realistic. What happens if he has Advent in hand or Selesnya Charm, He has the luxury of playing a little bit more conservatively at this spot.
Shrout draws and plays a Voice of Resurgence, which is fine. It's not exciting. The Elemental token actually is much better than the Voice of Resurgence, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Shrout run that into the red zone next turn. Now, his Elemental token right now is a 4/4. The Worm is a 5/5, Soldier, of course, being a 2/1.
Yeah, if Shrout couldn't attack last turn, then
I can't imagine he can now. He decides that he can attack, so 5/5 and 4/4. Now, he does have 5 mana available, so this actually puts the onus on Turtenwald to make a certain set of blocks, because 5 mana can represent the Bestow on Boonsatyr. Also has to worry about something like a Selesnya Charm type effect. Going to discard Devour Flesh will Owen to make a rat token. Don't forget about those Mutavaults over there. Those are at the ready to turn into rats. Shrout feeling like now is the time to get into the red zone, so a double block and a single block. Now, those rat tokens are 3/3s that can become 5/5s.
he can also, I suppose, just make his rats potentially 4/4s to prevent Selesnya Charm from being added to the equation here.
Sure.
He was feeling so inclined.
So let's see how Turtenwald decides to block. You see right now the 2 rats are on Advent of the Worm, Nightveil Spectre, and the original copy of Pack Rat are on Voice of Resurgence. Feels like a Boonsatyr to me.
It's weird because it feels like he had a better spot to Boonsatyr a couple turns ago if that was going to be the plan.
So Pack Rats are going to bite the dust, but there is 1 Pack Rat left over, so Shrout feels the need to actually try to clear up the board a little bit here, but I'm not sure if that accomplishes very much. Now Turtenwald still has a Pack Rat. He's still got the 2 Mutavaults. I think Turtenwald's still in the situation. Now he feels confident enough to attack. And there is a Banisher Priest.
I mean, the last card of his hand is something like Advent of the Worm, then all this makes sense, but I'm almost certain just the way the game's played out, the last card in his hand is a land.
I agree with you. And I think he has to send Voice of Resurgence into the red zone here just because the 2/2 Elemental token is better than... yeah, there's a Voice of Resurgence. I think the Voice of Resurgence token is better than the actual Voice of Resurgence. So I think it's correct to want to send them into the red zone right now.
Especially now that you have a backup voice. I mean, he can get rid of a Mutavault here, basically.
So he's going to pass the turn back. Discard. Obviously, Rat's going to come into play. Doesn't care for Desecration Demon. Turtenwald is going to draw a card. Again, either drawing Pack Rat or a relevant card off the top of his deck. And it looks like Nightveil Spectre might be going into the red zone yet again here. And the answer is that it is. So we'll see what Turtenwald finds at the top of the deck. It's a Voice of Resurgence. Passes the turn back. And not a lot has to change here for Owen. He's really got the stranglehold on this game right now of, what are the relevant cards that Shrout can draw to get himself out of the situation. This is a Mistcutter Hydra. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to turn everybody sideways.
So Owen has basically five blockers. I guess he can only make 4 blockers total.
Yep.
Because he can't animate both Mutavaults and make a rat. And so this is going to clear out a little bit of his board.
Yeah.
And again, the elementals are going to trigger. So this is not a bad attack.
This is not a bad attack, no.
And even just clearing those Mutavaults out of the way potentially is a really big deal here.
Agreed.
Because it's part of the reason these rats are so hard for him to slog through currently.
There's a discard, Pack Rat. And as you did mention, that one of those Mutavaults has got to get into the blocking stages of the game. Yep, so that's going to come up. Let's see how Turtenwald decides to block here. I don't think he can afford a double block sitting at 1 life. Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, he's got to spread this out.
Yeah. So he can make those into 5/5s. What does Shrout get to kill off here? The question is, does Turtenwald? No, Turtenwald won't kill him. He won't kill him on the backswing.
Are you sure he's going to have 5 rats in play next turn?
Well, so Mutavault's going to die.
But he keeps his other Mutavault, and he has a draw step. So this is actually a lethal attack coming back for Turtenwald because he has...
Well, Shrout gets 2 blockers.
Oh, right, he gets the 2 elementals, correct.
So now Turtenwald is going to have a ton. He's got 3/3s. Mutavault makes him a 4/4. Draw makes it a 5/5. He can probably serve it with some number of rats here if he wants to.
I think he's better probably just holding off for 1 more turn. He still has to be worried about, getting punked out by something like Selesnya Charm, and next turn he has a super lethal attack. He might be able to afford to send 1 rat, but again, I believe Owen's going to err on the side of caution here since he's pretty substantially ahead.
Yeah, not much reason to risk it, as it were.
Right.
That's for sure. And especially when you're playing against a deck that doesn't have any reach, there's no burn to be worried about. So I have to close out the game right now because I don't want to draw a Lightning Strike or a Searing Spear or something like that. He can afford to play conservatively.
Yes.
He's trying to decide if it's what's he okay attacking with, and the answer is everything. Hello. Well, you can best believe that he's deduced that there has to be a double block here, and that both those creatures have to block. The question is, does this open himself up to losing to a Selesnya Charm?
He gets to make a rat and block with Mutavault. So if one of his rats dies, then we're looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 6. It does. On board it looks like he's now exposed to Selesnya Charm, assuming these elementals double block.
So if you put the 2 elementals in front of 1 rat, the rats right now are 3/3s, and he can discard to make 1 a 4/4.
Now it's possible Owen's drawing a removal spell, and he's happy with Andrew double blocking.
Of course.
If it's an edict, if it's Hero's Downfall, that closes the game.
Yeah. Because what happens is Shrout double blocks, and then he Hero's Downfalls the Mistcutter Hydra, and then those guys become 2/2s. Now this is an interesting block here by Shrout because what he's doing is he's blocking Pack Rat. Okay, discard this. Pack Rat's going to come in. It's going to eat that Voice of Resurgence token. This turns on more cards now for Shrout. Turns on Banisher Priest. Because Turtenwald only has 2 blockers. She's got a Mutavault in that.
Yeah, that seemed like a really risky attack here from Owen.
So Shrout's got some big draws. He draws a card off the top of his deck. It's a Selesnya Charm. Attack with both +2/+2.
Wow.
Yeah. I think Owen got too aggressive there.
I think they could have held it down for 1 more turn there.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a reason to turn the corner that quickly because, again, Shrout doesn't have any reach in his deck. And Shrout is able to steal that one with a top deck Selesnya Charm.
Wow.
So, in a game where each player mulligans to 5, Shrout missed that crucial attack in the mid game with the advent of the
Yep.
worm, but is able to come back, and with a little bit of over aggressiveness by Turtenwald and a timely top deck, Andrew Shrout is up the first game.
Pretty impressive.
All right, wow, that was a really good game actually.
That was really good.
Trivia time for you guys, really quick. We're gonna do the full year giveaway. You got a question for these people to answer?
Sure.
You do? Okay, good man. Hashtag SCG Premium on Twitter. We'll announce the winner at the conclusion of this fantastic finals match here between Shrout and Turtenwald. Shoot.
In Andrew Shrout's main deck, there are only 2 spells, 2 different spells.
Sure.
Both of them are spells that generate creatures. Name those 2 spells.
All right, if you can name both those spells, hashtag your answer with the hashtag SCG Premium. Again, we're going to announce the winner at the conclusion of our finals match here between Shrout and Turtenwald, so it is about accuracy, not speed, as we're going to cut back over to the match and take a look at the sideboards here. Turtenwald's going to be on the play, so I'm going to start there. 2 copies of Freakish Cure, 3 Dark Betrayal, 3 Erebos God of the Dead, 3 copies of Lifebane Zombie, and 4 copies of Duress. Well, Lifebane Zombie is obvious. He's playing against green-white deck, so that's going to come in. Dark Betrayal, also obvious. He's not playing against black, so that's not going to come in. Duress is okay. Erebos, I think, is easily leaving the sideboard. Then Freakish Cure's got some targets. It's not exciting, but it's good enough. The question is, do you want to board in Duress when you can probably believe that Andrew, you obviously know he has spells in his deck. He's probably going to be boarding in some more.
I think you probably want to leave Duress at home, since Owen has to just be concerned with having enough stuff that impacts the board and having enough removal. But I can see it coming in. I just don't think there's enough spells in Andrew's deck, quite frankly, to be able to play Duress effectively. But Lifebane Zombie is, of course, going to be awesome here.
Okay.
On the other side, I actually don't know if there's any cards here that Andrew Shrout really wants to touch. Rootborn Defenses is okay against Hero's Downfall. Maybe he wants to bring in Last Breath to fight over Pack Rat and a couple other targets, although, you know, again, he's the beatdown deck in this matchup, so giving Owen 4 life is a huge cost. Maybe he wants another Mistcutter Hydra as a big finisher, but quite frankly, I think Andrew's main deck is close to the 60 cards I'd be presenting. There's not a lot of action here in the sideboard.
See both players shuffling up here. You know, one of the fun things that we get to do with our jobs, obviously covering Magic, is it is awesome to be able to watch a great back-and-forth game like we just saw in that particular one. Both players bowling to 5, you know, jockeying for position. Shrout kind of mismanages the attack with the Advent of the Worm on that one turn, which allows Turtenwald to actually get back in the game. And then you see Turtenwald top deck a Pack Rat, so immediately punishing Shrout for missing that attack. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh boy.
Yep.
Now Shrout.
Owen just takes this one home pretty easily.
You know, that missed blunder from Shrout is going to allow Turtenwald, because of the timely top deck of the Pack Rat, to get back in it. But Shrout kept fighting and fighting and fighting to get back into the game. A huge Mistcutter Hydra, some attacks that look kind of bad on the surface, but maybe, you know, it forces Turtenwald into making that what looks to be a poor attack on that last turn of the game. And it's kind of crazy, because when I think of Owen Turtenwald, I think of flawless technical play. And I think just right there, it was just, it's so rare for him to misassess a board like that. Just so aggressive in that particular spot.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was playing around or what draw steps he was concerned about that caused him to make that attack. I think if he just waits one more turn, he has all of Andrew's outs covered and got a little aggressive there. And, you know, Shrout, to his credit, he kept on making those alpha strikes that looked bad, but all he was doing was buying himself time.
Yes.
His creatures did nothing on defense, so all he could do was alpha as much as possible, try to kill as many rats and mutavaults as possible to give himself the opportunity to draw that Celestia Charm. And his alphas plus Owen's attack on that last turn, you know, it gave Shrout the opening to top deck Celestia Charm, and he did.
And the alphas from the green-white deck are so much different than other decks, too, because you have to worry about, okay, does he have Charm, does he have Boon Satyr, does he have this, does he have that? The alpha strikes from green-white deck are very, very scary, as both players are keeping 7 cards this go-around. Turtenwald has a Temple of Deceit. He's got a Pack Rat on turn number 2, and Shrout is immediately going to be put to the test of, do you have an answer, or can you keep up with the Pack Rat?
And I believe Owen's third land is a Mutavault, so this is going to be a big challenge for Shrout this game.
Shrout has 2 copies of Voice Resurgence. He's got a Fleece Mainline, a Boon Satyr in the grip, and he's going to play Voice Resurgence and pass the turn back. So while green-white doesn't have very many answers to a turn 2 Pack Rat, Shrout does have access to Last Breath. There is a Lifebane Zombie, so Turtenwald is on a very, very nice draw here. He's going to see the hand of Celestia Charm, Plains, Boon Satyr, Voice Resurgence, and Fleece Main Lion.
And maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, but I suspect we're going to be moving on to a third game. Owen with a great draw here. All the tools really you could ask for. He has removal as backup in case Shrout draws some stragglers that matter. And Pack Rat plus Mutavault plus Lifebane Zombie. It's a lot of tools to work with here.
So what he wants to take, as he's consulting his hand, you see a couple copies of Devour Flesh. There's your Hero's Downfall hanging out over there. Not entirely sure he has the 4th land to be able to make a Pack Rat and activate Mutavault, but he's going to go with Fleecebane Lion. He's going to exile that, going to record the information in Shrout's hand and pass the turn back. So, of course, Pack Rat not going to attack in that 2-2, but Voice Resurgence may come into the red zone on his end as Shrout does draw an Advent of the Worm for the turn. Actually, I like an attack here a lot from Voice. No reason to hold back.
Andrew certainly can't win this game by blocking, so.
Now here's another copy of Voice Resurgence going to pass the turn back, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. You know, if Turtenwald were to attack or something like that with he plays a land, and then can make a Pack Rat activate Mutable. I think you still block because again the Elemental token is so much more important than the actual Voice token or than actual Voice.
So I believe Owen's just drawn a Thoughtseize this turn, so that does open up the possibility of him playing a land, Thoughtseizing, and still making a rat. Which would, unbeknownst to Owen right now, be very good as Andrew has just picked up an Advent of the Worm.
Yep. Oh, there's the 4th land, which is obviously crucial here. Again, he can go Thoughtseize Hero's Downfall, he can go Thoughtseize make a Pack Rat, he can go make a Pack Rat activate Mutavault to make a makeshift Pack Rat. The 4th land was incredibly important here. And here come the attackers. A little surprised not to see a block.
Well, I think Andrew's pretty happy to race here.
Okay.
He has no other choice, at least.
Here's a Thoughtseize. So Turtenwald gets to see that he drew an Advent of the Worm among the other cards in the hand. I mean, my point with the block there is just that it forces Turtenwald's hand a little bit of you have to make a Pack Rat and activate your Mutavault to keep your Pack Rat alive. And I think that the Elemental token is just so much more important than having actual Voice out there because it lets him play a creature pre-combat and just start attacking again.
Well, your Voices still have value as chump blockers down the line, potentially more chump blockers. And making him activate the Mutavault only matters in the event that Owen has something to do with 1 mana.
Okay.
So I like the no block there from Andrew, I think.
Banish your Priest off the top here from Shrout.
Not a bad draw, certainly.
Can take care of that. Can take care of the rat token if you'd like to, and get in for 4 points of damage and get back to racing, as you did mention. There is your planes. And the Chargers fan, time to think about some things.
I almost feel like, well, the reason to potentially not banish for Priest this turn is Owen doesn't have a block unless he's willing to trade his 2/2 rat with a Voice token. And you may want to save that Banisher Priest for a turn where Owen is leaving something back to block with.
Okay.
Because he has to maximize every resource that he has this game to have a shot. So
Banisher Priest is going to take care of the rat token. And obviously, I like that play of if he does block with his Pack Rat, which I don't think he's going to do, but if Turtenwald does block with his Pack Rat, you get your Elemental token Voice Resurgence, and then you Banisher Priest, the original Pack Rat, and then you're kind of out from underneath this part of the game until Turtenwald has a removal spell for your Banisher Priest. So I like the attack first. I like everything that Shrout did on that particular turn as we pass the turn back to Turtenwald. Turtenwald does know the contents of Shrout's hand right now. He's got that Selesnya Charm and Boon Satyr in his hand. So if Shrout is able to draw a 5th land, lets him really open up the game of what he can do and the decisions that he can make. For Turtenwald, he's got plenty of decisions of his own. He's got copies of Devour Flesh in hand. He has Hero's Downfall. Can I keep attacking with this Lifebane Zombie? Should I just be making rats moving forward? He's got some real decisions to make.
Yep. He can't quite do everything. He's a little bit behind in terms of efficiency, certainly.
An attack here from Pack Rat and company. Pack Rat can be made discarding Devour Flesh. Will we see a Mutavault activation? Mutavault's probably better served on defense, making that rat into a 3/3 as opposed to offense, but he has to worry about Selesnya Charm.
Yep. So Andrew's still, keeping the race close, certainly.
Shrout goes down to 10. He draws an Advent of the Worm for the turn.
Not a bad draw. Although it's a little rough because I think he was hoping to just use his Selesnya Charm this turn if Owen was willing to block. Advent definitely complicates matters.
So I wonder what you attack with if you're Shrout here. It's really interesting, too, because Advent is masked so well right now.
Mm-hmm.
Turtenwald knows the contents of Shrout's hand. He knows that he has Boonsager. He knows that he has Celestial Charm. So if Shrout were to just, make whatever attacks he does and passes the turn, it's like, okay, I've got to worry about these 2 cards. And it's like, did you actually top deck an Advent Lorem, especially when there's one in the graveyard? Am I going to actually play around that card? Can I afford to play around it? Is everyone's going to come to the red zone here? So this is a loud representation of, hey, I'm going to Celestial Charm past your guy.
Yep. So far, everything makes sense as far as Owen, as far as the information that Owen has.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing about this is weird. So, like you said, the Advent's still masked.
So now Turtenwald has to make a decision because, again, he knows about that Celestial Charm that's in the grip there for Shrout. So, am I going to block with my Pack Rat and then activate Mutavault to save some damage and force the Celestial Charm out of his hand? Or am I perfectly fine saying, okay, I'll take 6, I'll go to 6. But I think Shrout would be thrilled if that were the case.
Oh, if he got to, say, go here and then just...
And doesn't have to use the Charm?
Now
Yeah,
he can
he's
actually
thrilled.
play Advent. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is great for Shrout.
All right, so Turtenwald takes damage. He goes to 6. He draws a land, which isn't a bad draw here.
So can he fire up Mutavault and just attack for lethal now?
That's what he's going to try to do. He's got Hero's Downfall in his hand. Is that going to be it? If that's 3... That's an attack for 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So because he has Hero's Downfall, I think what had to happen this game is Turtenwald had to draw the land put the check mark on it, which he did do. So Shrout does cast Advent of the Worm, which he's going to do. Hero's Downfall, kill that.
And that's lethal.
Kill you. Okay, so a top deck land there from Turtenwald. You see Shrout's going to do the math. 3 from each Pack Rat, 3 from the Lifebane Zombie, 2 from the Mutavault. That's going to be 11. 11 is more than 10. That means we're going to move on to a third and final game. So a top deck land there from Turtenwald seals that one. And we watch these 2 players go to a third game.
2 real good ones here, and Andrew did a pretty impressive job of keeping his head above water against that Pack Rat.
Yes.
I mean, the game was close-ish.
Yes.
So, and with Owen on the play there, and with a turn 3 Lifebane Zombie as well. I mean, that draw was quite excellent from Owen, and Andrew had a shot that game. I mean, the game was close, at least on the table.
You see the sideboards on the screen yet again. 1 Mistcutter Hydra, 2 Skylasher, 3 Unflinching Courage, 2 Last Breath, 2 Rootborn Defenses, 2 copies of Pelucranos World Eater, and 3 Glare of Heresy for Shrout. Don't expect a ton to change. On Turtenwald's side, you saw him consult his sideboard very briefly. 3 Lifebane Zombies, which are, of course, in the deck. 3 Dark Betrayal, 2 Farika's Cure, 3 Erebos God of the Dead, and 4 copies of Duress are the 15 that he has. Looks like he's switching out a sleeve here that may have ripped, but other than that, I don't expect a lot to change. For Shrout, I think the big thing here, he's on the play for Game 3.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Gives him a much better shot of fighting through a Pack Rat, even if Owen has it, and puts a lot more pressure on Owen to have Pack Rat. We talked about this a lot, what's the way that you actually attack Mono Black Devotion? And in my mind, the deck is pretty inefficient on turns 1 and 2. It's either playing Thoughtseize or nothing on the first turn. Turn 2, it's maybe casting a removal spell, maybe playing a 1/1 Pack Rat. If you can capitalize on, those first 2 turns of the game, you have a pretty good shot at beating the deck. Because the deck doesn't cast 2 spells a turn very often. It's trading 1 for 1 and trying to outpower you. So you get to be more efficient with your mana. The Gray and White deck is definitely set up to play that sort of game.
Mm-hmm.
And if Shrout can get, now there's a lot of question marks. He needs to have both colors of mana and a good curve. But I think he's a pretty big favorite if Owen doesn't have Pack Rat, and he still might even be able to power through Pack Rat, even if Owen has it, with his best hands on the play.
I think it's fitting that we have a third game between these 2 guys.
Yeah.
Both these games have been absolutely great to watch. The first game, kind of a struggle for both players on Mulligan to 5. A lot of back and forth between the 2 players. Shrout ends up coming out ahead with the top deck. And while it didn't seem like that top deck from Turtenwald was as explosive of him, hey, I drew a land. That was a really big deal. It allowed him to fire at Mutavault, to attack for lethal and Hero's Downfall. The Advent of the Worm that we thought was actually a pretty big draw, and it was, but the land actually put the check mark in the box of Turtenwald to win that game. So this third and final one, because Shrout was able to steal the first one, pretty big deal that he's on the play here. If he can get off to a fast start, it's going to be tough for Turtenwald to catch up.
And breaking serve against Mono Black Devotion is not an easy thing to do.
Yes.
But, Owen started off the game with 2 Thoughtseizes in that first game. Looks pretty good on paper, but both players are basically out of resources, and Shrout had a couple turns there of just drawing castable creatures, while Owen was drawing lands or 5-mana spells, or things that weren't that efficient.
Underworld connections.
Removal spells against a Voice of Resurgence, all that sort of stuff. And that gave those couple turns there, Andrew made up a lot of the ground that allowed him to eventually close that game out.
So players playing for a lot on the line right now. 20 Open Series points for our players championship race to get qualified for that tournament. First place of that tournament, of course, the total payout $50,000. Excuse me. $2,000 on the line for first place here, and a trophy.
A lot going on.
A lot going on.
And those points especially, Last year for players of this caliber, those points would have been kind of irrelevant. They would have qualified for the invitationals. Maybe the buys would have mattered to them, what have you. But, the points don't add a lot of pressure. This year, entirely different animal.
All right, both players going to lay it out. Shrout's got some force. He's got a whole bunch of force. And a Temple Garden, a Soldier, a Boon Satyr, and a Plains. 5 lands, 2 spells.
And this hand feels right on the fence of keepable to me, probably closer to a mulligan.
Feels like a mulligan to me, too. I don't know. I just feel like it can do better.
And that you have to do better also.
Yeah, you have to have a sequence of draws that line up, but he's going to keep this hand, so there's a turn 1 Soldier. Turtenwald keeps his 7. We're underway here, and if he gets targeted by Thoughtseize, yep, it's Nightmare City.
And
here's my 5-lander.
And Owen picked a pack rat off the top of that draw step too, so if Owen has 2 more lands, this could be a really quick one.
Top Deck City, USA. That's where it's time to go. Shrout draws a card. Temple Garden play tapped, pass. Turtenwald's going to draw his card. You mentioned the pack rat that he did draw for the turn. We'll see if he wants to deploy this on turn 2. The answer is yes, pass the turn. Shrout will draw a card. It's a Fleecemane Lion, not so bad. There's a forest, there's an attack for 2. Turtenwald predictably does not block. And on 14, there's a 3/3, pass the turn. Turtenwald's going to draw a card. Desecration Demon is the draw here. Not the best card in this particular matchup, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that be turned into a pack rat. However, in this draw that Shrout has here, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it does open, Owen's a little bit under the gun here, and that Fleecemane line is possible to monstrous 2 turns from now. Obviously, Andrew has the land. So him drawing a Celestial Charm and killing that demon, that tempo swing actually could make the difference.
Boon Satyr off the top for Shrout. This is a Soldier. This is attack with both creatures. Basically, what Soldier would do here is trade for a card. If Turtenwald wanted to make something, Shrout not going to play the Celestia Guildgate because he doesn't want Turtenwald to know that he has that. Going to make a pack right here. So Turtenwald trying to stabilize right around 9 life right now. You see Shrout's hand, and I believe I misidentified. I do not think there's a Boon Satyr hanging out there. I think that's just a Celestia Guildgate and a forest. So he is land heavy. And he's basically all in. Now, as you did mention, he does have something to do once he plays his 5th land, thanks to Fleecemane Lion. But it's on Turtenwald to stabilize and then turn the corner on this game right now.
Yep. And I mean, the pack rat, can't block a 4/4 Fleecemane Lion and survive this turn or the following turn. So Owen's a little tied up handling this Fleecemane Lion. It's actually somewhat troubling for him.
There's a Temple to see. Bottoms up goes the top card.
Owen, of course, is a pretty substantial favorite from here, but
Red Zone.
Well, he's going to make a 3/3 rat, so he's still got the soldiers on check, and it's not like anything's happening with his Fleecemane Lion, so.
All right, take a draw. Shrout draws.
Looks like Banisher Priest.
May have been a Last Breath. Yeah, I think that's the last breath.
That looks like a Last Breath attack.
Now, of course, this represents so many things from green-white, obviously, right? Oh, is it a Boon Satyr? Is it a Celestial Charm? What did you draw? What is Turtenwald going to play around? He didn't see Last Breath in the last game. He doesn't even know if he boarded that in. Here's an activation, it looks like, of Pack Rat. I think you have to respond. If it is...
Well, I believe that Owen has to discard first.
I think, yeah, discard is part of the cost. Trying to figure out what to discard. You see he's brought a Freakus Cure to the forefront. That's what he's going to discard. And Shrout says, that has not resolved just yet. Last Breath. I think it's best to Last Breath the original pack rat because Banisher Priest takes care of the tokens.
Yeah.
Yep. So get that out of here. 2/2 pack rat, how does it want to block? Doesn't want to block at all. Turtenwald's going to go up to 13.
And that pack rat should actually be exiled.
Yeah.
Small thing, I don't think there's any Whip of Erebos action going on here.
Turtenwald does not play Whip, falling out of favor for him. So, board state's good. Now the real decision, do you block with a pack rat and trade with a soldier here?
I mean, there's the risk here. What if Andrew has another way to kill the rat if he blocks here? And because there's so much upside in just locking the soldiers out of the game, or at least for the time being, by getting your rats to be 3/3s, probably just best to err on the side of caution. And Owen's just picked up a Mutavault here, which is also critical.
Also has a Grey Merchant in his hand too, so if he were to play Mutavault plus Grey Merchant this turn, he'd gain 4 life, go up to 10. Shrout would go down to 14, which isn't as important as Turtenwald really solidifying, the board. But does he want to deploy it on this turn? I think that's the big question. As you did mention, Mutavault is pretty big right now, but he opts to play a Swamp, and it's going to be a Grey Merchant, so he's going to gain 4 life. He's going to go up to 10. Shrout's going to go down to 14, and now Pack Rats are coming into the red zone. He does like to get aggressive. Yep. I will give him that. Shrout's going to draw. It's a Voice of Resurgence. $10 to 10 is your score.
Yeah, and I like the strike there again. Your 2/4, covers your 2/4 covers the soldiers. So
tough thing here for Shrout. He likely wants to get Voice deployed. However, if he does that, he can't make any attacks. And if his turn is just attack you with Fleece Mane Lion,
I think he has to likely Alpha Strike.
You think so?
Those soldiers aren't getting any better here.
Okay.
So
there's your block. You could just have the soldiers on chump blocking duty for the pack rats because Turtenwald has proven that he's willing to get very aggressive always. I don't know if that's correct, of course, but that's just what you can do. So there's that. There's a Voice. There's a pass. Now, is Shrout facing a lethal attack here?
Well, it might be because he doesn't know about that Mutavault.
But that 6th land's also going to allow Turtenwald to make 2 pack rats too.
Well, he can block 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's 10 on board.
So we're going to play at least one more turn?
Yep. Andrew gamely fighting through this.
Yeah.
This turn 2 pack rat after a first turn Thoughtseize, taking his last remaining spell. Oh, and just trying to noodle through Andrew's outs.
Slowing down.
I like pumping the brakes for 1 turn.
Yeah, I do too.
You're going to overwhelm him soon, so.
Yeah, because he gets to go discard for pack rats and just overwhelm him the following turn. Shrout draws an experiment 1 to go with that Slicing Gilgate that he's been holding for a very, very long time. In comes the Fleece Mane Lion. Grey Merchant's going to get in front of that. Monstrosity activation. Turtenwald says that's fine. If that's your entire turn, I love it. There's a Slicing Gilgate, pass the turn back. Discard.
And here comes lethal.
Yep. Bunch of rats, 2 blockers, draw a card. I think he can afford to fire up Mutavault. There is a Pharika Cure to get that out of the way, and that is going to do it. Owen Turtenwald with Mono Black Devotion is going to win our first Standard Open of the year.
No big deal.
Champion.
No big deal.
Not at all.
Just another win.
Just another feather in his cap. Congratulations to Owen Turtenwald playing his baby, Mono Black Devotion, Grand Prix Albuquerque.